At the start of every riding season, I try to make content for the guy or gal who is just about to start riding a motorcycle for the very first time. It's a super exciting time. I remember about 10 years ago when I swung a leg over my very first motorcycle and started riding. It was truly a magical feeling. But I thought in today's video it would be fun to explain, as detailed as I can, what exactly it's going to feel like when you ride your bike for the very first time, when you actually start riding a motorcycle. Because these finicky, strange, two-wheeled pieces of crap, these monstrosities, these incredible gifts to mankind, they are really weird, man, and they are not like cars. These things work completely differently, not only because of the fact they have two wheels, but just everything about them, man. So if you're coming from driving only four-wheeled vehicles, maybe you're an American, because that's usually the audience that we're referring to here on Yami Noob. Maybe you're European, maybe you're Australian, whoever you are, wherever you are. If you've only ever driven cars and you're about to start riding these things, today's video is going to help you out. So first thing I wanted to tell you when you ride a motorcycle is turning them on is kind of weird, man. They have keys like cars, right? So this bike has a key right here, and you notice that when I flick the key, the screen comes on. This is a kind of a fancier model. This is a Yamaha MT-07 that I'm actually giving away on my website, yaminoob.co, so hit that link below if you want to win it for free. I give away motorcycles here on the channel. But bikes have these things called the kill switch over here. So in order to actually start the motorcycle, you have to turn the key and then hit this. It's a bit of a safety feature. But you'll notice something interesting. When I hit this button, nothing happens. Huh, that's weird. Why isn't it turning on? Maybe it's because I have to pull in the clutch. Maybe that'll do it. Nope. That didn't do it either. So, a lot of bikes, again, safety features here, folks. What they have is a kickstand kill switch. So, you'll actually see this little wire right here. When you hit the kickstand up, now you can turn on the bike. Okay, finally, we can turn on the bike. Oh my God, I still can't turn on this bike. Why can't I turn on this bike? Well, as a secondary feature, they have clutch bypass switches too. So you got to make sure the clutch is pulled in, and then you can start it. But you're in first gear, so when you pull that clutch out, it's going to start moving, right? So let's get it into neutral and talk a teensy bit more before we actually take off on this beautiful road here in Austin, Texas. Motorcycles work very, very differently at slow speeds versus higher speeds. A motorcycle has 3 gyroscopes on it. You have the front wheel, the back wheel, and the rotating crank inside of the engine. As you move faster, those forces become more pronounced, keeps the bike more upright. However, in slow speed conditions, where you're mostly going to start riding your bike, they're a bit awkward, man. I'm not going to lie. When you first start learning how to ride, these things are a little heavy, right? This bike is relatively lightweight for a street motorcycle. It weighs 400 pounds, and you're like, wow, I don't think I could lift that. But you'd be surprised. Actually, you can, using correct technique, lift the motorcycle up if it does indeed drop over. But they're kind of awkward at speed. So let's take off here. We'll talk a little bit about those differences and just have some fun riding the bike. One thing that's super cool about motorcycles is how tactile they are. If you're used to driving four-wheeled machines, maybe you're even a car enthusiast, you might talk about things like throttle feel, steering feel, and you might bemoan the fact that, oh my goodness, all these new automobiles are so numb, every time I get like a rental car or some other crap like that, it's always kind of hilarious how much slop there is in the steering wheel and how little feedback you actually get. Motorcycles are the complete opposite. Every single bike, with the rare exception of, some BMW GS's, a couple Goldwings, and some other kind of higher tier motorcycles, the steering, so to speak, is directly bolted to the front wheel and the front suspension member, which in most motorcycles cases are telescopic forks, right? Or a telescopic fork, rather, because it is the two legs of a fork. And so on a motorcycle, when you're rolling around, all you do is you just push this way and the bike just dips in, dips out. Bikes are super responsive, especially because they are lightweight. They're small, they're nimble, for the most part. Some have lumbering, geometries and heavier weights and those sort of things with the vast majority of your average beginner bikes you're going to start on. Dude, they're super direct, super tactile. And it's why here, especially on Yami Noob, we say to start on something reasonable, because those control inputs are very touchy on high performance machines. Even something like this MT-07, as we drop down this hill over here, I'll put it down into third gear. I'll show you guys even just a little. You see that? You see how much the bike jumps forward? There was actually a fella I saw on YouTube who started on a 1000cc motorcycle, very ill-advised, and in his video he complained about how touchy the throttle was. He couldn't get used to how touchy it was. You will eventually get used to it, because throttle control is the most important thing on a motorcycle. Having the ability to just give a little bit of gas, that 0 to 5%, modulating the throttle, it's a masterful thing on a motorcycle, and one that you'll never truly master, right? I mean, we talk about high-level racing techniques using just a little bit of throttle input, balancing the way the motorcycle works, picking it up off an apex, adding gas and picking the bike up. I mean, motorcycles are so dynamic and so tactile and so responsive compared to four-wheel vehicles that you may end up feeling a little overwhelmed when you ride your first bike. This happens to a lot of people because, quite frankly, this is not natural. It's not normal to be on a two-wheeled thing going even 30, 40, 50 miles an hour and be able to accelerate up to 100 miles an hour, you know? It's going to take your brain some acclimation, which is, again, why we say don't get a super high-powered motorcycle for your first bike, because your brain needs time to develop these skills and to acclimate, you know? There's so many small, minute things you want to do with the motorcycle before you start adding speed to the equation. So they're direct, they're tactile, they're responsive. Best of all, too, you know, car guys talk about this a lot, about the holy grail cars. Oh, they're mid-mounted engines, they're rear-wheel drive, they're direct, they're analog. Every single motorcycle is like that. So if you're coming from that enthusiast background, know that every motorcycle, literally the engine is between your legs. It cannot get more tactile or direct than that. You literally feel the RPMs increasing as you ride the bike like this. You feel the deceleration. It is so, you feel the vibration through the handlebars. I mean, no car comes close to this, dude. Absolutely no car comes close to how visceral and tactile a motorcycle is. So, again, if this is going to be your first riding season, just know that it's sensory overload, man. The engine's right here. All of them have drive at the rear wheel, obviously, transmitted through a chain. It's super direct. You know, there's way fewer rotating parts and loss of power and driveline and all that. I mean, it's a sprocket, a chain, and another sprocket. That's it. That's how power gets down to the rear wheel. Even at the highest levels of racing in a MotoGP bike, that's the same. They transmit power the exact same way every street bike does. And that's the other thing I think is really cool about motorcycles, is the performance that you can get on a motorcycle from the factory floor. You know, for a top shelf super bike, boy, it's pretty damn close to what you'd get as a professional racer. I mean, how many car guys can say that, you know? How many car guys can say, oh yeah, this consumer good that cost me $25,000 is pretty freaking close to the actual racing product that the professionals use. So that's super cool. Certainly one of the strangest but eventually most natural feeling things about a motorcycle is the fact that they dip into corners, they lean into corners. That's the only way a motorcycle can get through a corner, is by leaning. So to get through corners on a bike, they have to lean. And at first, that lean may be a little scary to you. Like I said, sensory overload, right? But like, to actually turn the motorcycle, you have to push on the handlebars. You have to make it lean, right? But eventually it does feel natural. You know, eventually you feel very connected and at one with the motorcycle. And the other thing that's really cool about bikes, very different than cars and four-wheel vehicles, is your body has a very big impact on the way that the machine is going to handle. Again, as an example, let's take this MT-07 with its 400-pound curb weight, right? Me, on top of it, I weigh about 170 pounds without any of my gear, so just call it a flat 200 with all of my gear, my backpack, my helmet, my boots, my jacket, all that stuff, right? So literally, my body is 50% of the motorcycle's mass. It means that as a combined unit, we are about 600 pounds of man and machine going down the road. So where I put those 200 pounds will definitely matter to the way the motorcycle handles and rides and feels. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, you don't really do that with a car. You just kind of sit there and you're kind of along for the ride. With the bike, you're so involved with what's happening, you know. And it's why we say that motorcycles are the closest to low-level flight that you'll ever get to as a non-pilot, because of the pitch, the yaw, the roll of the machine. They have more in common with planes when they handle than they do with cars. Most new riders are a bit afraid to admit it, to be honest, but most motorcycles are going to scare you, honestly. The amount of power, the way that they handle, and the big thing that we don't like talking about here on the channel, but we have to a little bit in this video, is that traffic is going to scare the crap out of you. The first time you get out on a road like this and you're exposed and you're rolling by a car like this at, you know, I'm going 56 miles an hour indicated on this motorcycle, it's going to feel very sketchy because you're used to going down the road in a nice protected bubble, in a climate controlled bubble too. My God, you little baby. Now you're going to ride a motorcycle and you're going to be exposed to the elements. You're going to get hot. You're going to get cold. You're going to get wet. You're going to have these cars riding next to you. You're going to have to look out for all these drivers on the road. But you have many advantages. You can filter through traffic. You're going to sip fuel. You're going to have so much more fun. And that's really the beauty of riding a motorcycle versus driving a car. It makes it so that every journey that you take is a journey. It's not just getting from A to B. You're really moving the soul, for lack of a better term, to be a little bit cheeseball with you people on the internet. You are moving your soul, man. It's nice. It feels good. It's an opportunity to take your mundane travel, everyday commute, to something really cool, something that inspires you, something that gets you excited, something that makes you want to get out there and explore. You're going to have this feeling when you start riding that you just want to be on your bike all the damn time. You want to find any excuse to just go out for a ride and to just go out there and get on your machine and see something new, go check out a new place. And you're going to be very, very sad when winter rolls around and you're not able to have some fun on your motorcycle. Or if it's wet and cold and crappy outside, you're like, oh my God, I just want to be on the bike, but you can't get the chance. The other feeling that's really fun with motorcycles, especially as you increase the power and get to enjoy some of the finer specimens that people have to offer, you have this sort of godlike feeling through traffic, you know? You have like this, like, man, I'm the fastest thing on the road, baby. Nobody can touch me. I can just zip through traffic. I can just do what I need to do. No problems at all. It's so much fun to ride and to have that feeling. To be like, I can just zip through all these frickin' cagers. And it just feels good, man. You're going to feel a great sense of satisfaction and a great sense of accomplishment when you start to really ride your motorcycle in a competent sort of way, when you really know what you're doing. Because at first, you're not going to know what you're doing at all. You're going to feel scared. You're going to feel unsure. You're going to take a corner too fast or too slow, and you're going to be like, God, I just want to be able to ride this thing a little bit better than I am right now. And that's part of the fun. You will get there, but it does take a little bit of time to develop those skills and to, you know, really understand how to pilot the machine correctly. Another funny thing that's going to happen as you ride is, you know, you're gonna do the slow speed stuff. You're going to feel really awkward. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. You'll get somewhat competent in doing those things, and then you'll start riding a little faster. And what's going to happen is you're going to ride a little faster like this in traffic, you know, 40, 50 miles an hour, and you're going to think you're hot stuff. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I got this whole motorcycling thing down pat. And then you'll go back to doing slow speed stuff, and you're going to drop the bike in a parking lot. Because they really do work pretty different at slow speeds than they do at higher speeds. You have to think a lot more, you know? You have to counter lean, you have to drag the rear brake, you have to slip the clutch, you have to really manage your throttle. You got to look where you want to go even more than you do when you're just cruising down the road like this, even though looking where you want to go always works. But yeah, that slow speed stuff can really be tricky, man. Be sure, you know, that you go out and practice every once in a while, because dropping your bike in a parking lot, not only is it embarrassing, but you could snap a lever or a shift peg, and then you're not going to be able to get back home, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that I am stuck out here in this parking lot because I dropped it like a dummy. If you start getting into performance-oriented riding as well, track day stuff, racing, it's going to give you a whole new perspective on just how amazing motorcycle racers really are, because once you try it and you realize how difficult it is to turn off your brain and hit those braking markers like you really need to, and drag elbow around the corner and go wide open throttle at the apex and go as fast as you possibly can, and once you realize what that limit actually looks like, you'll have a lot more respect for the guys that race. You'll watch MotoGP and just be in complete awe of what these guys can do, because you'll have tried it yourself. If you only ever ride on street, you're never really gonna feel that, you know? So yeah, entering the two-wheeled world, it's awesome, man. You're gonna have a ton of fun. But don't be surprised if you end up feeling a little discouraged, a little sad, but so excitable, man. If you are getting started this year, drop me a comment down below. I remember that feeling so well of starting to ride, and it's just so exciting and so fun to get on a motorcycle for the very first time. And I gotta be honest, I've been doing this for 10 years now, riding. I've ridden well over 200 motorcycles. I've done track days all around the world. I've been racing, done adventure rides, all kinds of stuff. Man, it never gets old. It really never gets old, man. Being on two wheels is just special. It's really, really special. As we're gonna go left to right here, bank it over. Oh, so much fun. Guys, thanks so much for checking out today's video. Hopefully I told you a little bit about how it's gonna feel when you ride your motorcycle for the first time. Let me know if you're starting to ride this year. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Head over to GameAndDube.co, become a member, join up. It's a great way to support the show. And if you have motorcycle questions, you get access to our Discord server, and you can ask them. You can hang out with me. I'm on there all the time, and it's a great way to get started riding. Thanks so much for checking out the show. We'll catch you later.
Keep watching Yami Noob.